Arthur watched his parents leave, tears streaming down his face as he tried to smile. In another town, perhaps where Mr. Lee wanted to go, Tan-Ao-Su spoke up. This is his laboratory, huh? So, he could be Edison? Hey, you should know Tesla's history best. Your reaction is a bit too much. Edison is Edison. I didn't know or think about it until I got here. Aren't you excited at all? I advise you not to get too excited. In a room full of books, someone was looking at something. He closed his eyes and tried to hold back, but he couldn't. He yelled, "A bunch of idiots, these silly, useless designs." Then he turned around because someone was calling him. "Sir, the kid often talks nonsense. He ran here again last time, but it seems important this time." As soon as the person finished speaking, Tesla ran over with some drawings. "Mr. Edison, I have completed the task you assigned me." "Hey, who let you in?" He was surprised to hear that the task was completed. "What has been completed?" "Oh, right. Let me see." He took the paper and said to Tesla, "You know my time is precious. I hope what you brought won't disappoint me." Before he could finish speaking, he found that the drawing was very different and was surprised. He continued to speak to Edison. "I have completed the alternating current generator and motor. Have you prepared my $50,000? The AC generator and DC motor? Is that correct? Do you think my improvement is feasible?" He just stared intently and ignored the young man's words. "I'm sorry, sir, maybe it's because of my bad handwriting. Let me explain it verbally. The current cannot move more than a mile in a city because the current will gradually weaken and disappear. So we need to build more generators and bury more copper wires. The most important thing about the power supply system is distance. In fact, I have thought of a more convenient way." Nikola Tesla finished speaking and then Edison also opened his mouth and said, "Wait a minute, young man. What about your grand plans? Say it later. Take this drawing and congratulations, your project has been approved." "Wait, sir. Please take a closer look. I have tested it many times and there is no problem at all." After speaking, he realized something was wrong. Hearing from approval to rejection is really helpless. The man behind him also sighed helplessly. Then the young man smiled happily and shouted, "What did you say? I've been approved? Thank you. There's nothing to thank the kid for. So now can you leave here and continue your research work?" "Sir, what about what you promised me before? It seems that we said that if you can complete the task of improving the DC generator I will give you $50,000. But it seems like you misunderstood me." "Wait a minute, what do you mean by that there will be no reward at all?" "That's because I just wanted to motivate you, so I said that." "No way, I think you should understand my concern for you. Above all, at your age, learning and accumulating new experiences is the most important thing, isn't it? Don't you think so?" "What?" "Sir, please let me explain. I just moved here, I really need money. Can I even get that amount now? We will raise your weekly salary to $25 a week. For a newcomer like you, this price is a bargain. You are really generous. Of course, remember to close the door. I will be very busy in the next few days, so don't bother me. By the way, if you have new design ideas, you can also come to discuss with me." Then, Nikola went home, opened the door and walked in. Going home is to go to bed and lie down lazily, the design drawings scattered around, bare. Unexpectedly, the famous Edison is such a person. The more I think about it, the more angry I get. I can't sleep, so I sit up. Seeing the newspaper on the table, he was shocked. Today's newspaper? I remember I didn't buy it. Reading in the newspaper that Mr. Wensinghouse is recruiting assistants. My God, he supports alternating current. This is indeed a godsend opportunity. Outside there were two people eavesdropping. Who else came in here? It was Mr. Lee and Tan-Ao-Su. Tanaosu seemed unhappy. I didn't know about their dispute, but I didn't expect Edison to play dirty from the beginning. This man is too small-minded, stingy and greedy. I told you before not to get too excited. Because he is like this, that's why I didn't want to hire him. The wheel of history has gone in the right direction, we just need to influence it a little bit. Then Edison's butler came to report that Tesla had quit his job. What? Resigned? Yes, sir, he submitted his resignation this morning. He was so angry that he paced back and forth with a pale face. That kid is indeed a genius inventor, but his personality is too stubborn. If he succeeds in business, then our electric company may lose its monopoly. After thinking about it, he said, I know where he went. Go and send me a message immediately. At a water shop. There was a man waiting for Nicola. He arrived later. Mr. Samuel, sorry for keeping you waiting. Okay, sit down quickly. I heard you are a patent lawyer. I want you to look at these inventions of mine. Okay then. Mr. Lee and Tanaosu also came here. Tanaosu spoke up angrily. This Nicola kid really, we gave him clear instructions, yet why did he come back here? It seems that after last time this kid has learned to restrain himself. It's not necessarily bad, but seeing a child from young to old voluntarily jumping into a well, making his own path difficult, we can't help but feel helpless. Tesla is very important to history and humanity. We can only silently watch until all the links are completed. So, you should get rid of your old mother's mentality first. And this is an order? What did you say? The old mother, I said, we need a wise person. Mr. Lee finished speaking and someone came in from outside. They all looked in that direction. There are two people coming to Tesla. Tanaosu spoke up again uncomfortably. Looking at the appearance clearly is not smart, it's annoying. How do you feel, Tesla? Seeing that she was about to lose her patience, Mr. Lee took out his watch, accelerated time so that their conversation would pass quickly. Otherwise, it won't be finished until tomorrow morning. After a while of talking, Tesla finally decided to register an arc lamp manufacturing company under his own name. But Tesla's rosy future did not come as expected. His company, under the management of two ordinary businessmen, quickly went bankrupt. Not only did Tesla's patents fail to register, but he was also deceived. In the end, he had no choice but to become a laborer, digging ditches for $2 a day. But ironically, he was working on a trench where Edison's electric company was running wires. That means he went bankrupt and now works for Edison at an even cheaper price. People around teased him, how does it feel, Tesla? Is the food in the trough better than the food in the office? He held the lunch box in his hand and could only remain silent. He was sad and didn't say anything. Then he felt something was wrong. This feeling seemed familiar. He looked up and saw two figures flying down. Seeing that, he couldn't believe it. His two superpowered neighbors from before were real, although he had doubted their age before. Mr. Lee greeted him. Where have you been? Haven't seen you around, Nikola Tesla. Mr. Lee, your face. Mr. Lee landed and spoke for him. Many years have passed and you are still very young, aren't you? Now let me introduce myself a bit. In fact, I am a time-traveling businessman here to recruit members for the Longevity Club, and I am here to recruit talents like you. He was still stunned and couldn't believe what was in front of him. Exactly, you are the best talent I am looking for, right? Talent me? I'm just a man full of mud. Mr. Lee continued to speak. I clearly hinted at you at the newspaper on the table talking about Wensinghouse and possibly working with him. But why didn't you follow my suggestion? He was even more stunned. What? That newspaper was left by you? Could it be that you two have been following me all along? If you say I have talent, but my talent is not worth mentioning in the eyes of great inventors. And after this incident, I really don't want to meet a second Edison. I thought that if the decision was in my hands, all problems could be solved. That's why I decided to self-manage. But as you two have seen, perhaps I am really not suitable for this job. My future is worrying. So then people in the future seem indifferent to your words, right? Speaking of which, are you surprised, boy? The future? What do you mean by the future? Mr. Lee is speaking with his hands. Just put your hand here and you'll see. But Nicholas is still hesitant. You have to trust me. I think this will interest you. Finally, he reached out to the watch. Time spun very quickly, with a strong light shining out. It was so dazzling that he closed his eyes for a moment. He slowly opened his eyes, and he was somewhere else. He was very surprised and screamed when he saw something flying, along with tall buildings. Mr. Lee's skyscraper smiled proudly, introducing Nicholas to the world of the future. I can remind you a bit about your future achievements: unlimited power generators and radio transmission systems, turbines, amplifiers. He still couldn't believe his eyes. Sir, are these things in the future? That's right, it means, not a loser. He spoke while crying at the sight of his future achievements. Then, Mr. Lee told Nicholas, the most important thing for you now is not to waste your time and life here. Instead, find a business rival like your old boss to prove yourself. Then, Mr. Lee showed him the lifespan information and took out the contract. Name, Nicholas Testa. Age, 23. Remaining lifespan, 64 years, he began to explain. Sign this contract. I will give you my time. Are you ready to join my longevity club? Do you want to go to a bright future world and see the world developed by scientists? Choose quickly, old man. Such a good deal, why should I refuse? I will definitely join your club after Tesla gets help from Mr. Lee. Finally, he joined Westinghouse's company. Then their company developed rapidly. Tesla not only won his high evaluation but also developed strongly with Westinghouse and achieved many achievements. Nicholas also started the battle of alternating current and direct current with Edison. The two were each other's rivals, as Mr. Lee said. On the other hand, Edison also wanted to prove the danger of alternating current. Edison conducted some horrifying and cruel experiments. He experimented with electricity on animals such as dogs, cats and herbivores, even humans, just to prove Tesla's alternating current is dangerous. Of course, on this point, Tesla and Mr. Westinghouse were not weak and did not slaughter like Edison. The proposed countermeasure was to use light bulbs. After all, businessmen are just looking for profit. At the Chicago World Fair in 1893, someone was looking at a street lamp post, probably Edison. He looked at the street lamp and said, "After all, we are still one step behind." There was someone behind him greeting Edison. "How have you been recently? Have you eaten yet? What do you think of our work? Are you here to show off your achievements to me?" "No, I'm here for the program only." "Why so serious? It seems like I don't have enough elephants in the zoo." The meaning is almost the same. But this time I won't use elephants, it's humans, and in the end, they will survive, they won't die like you did. Hearing him say that, Edison laughed out loud. "Are you bragging too much? I advise you to use those ignorant country prisoners. You're looking for death. Death? I have God to help. At least live another 100 years. Now I have to go, the program will start in 10 minutes. Don't be late, Mr. Edison. I have a seat for you in the front row, for a better view." Hearing him say that, Edison's face showed anger. He didn't say anything. The scene shifts to a noisy and bustling festival here. Edison said to Westinghouse, "You stand here and watch that Tesla guy. Is he using electricity to roast people? Aren't you afraid of being implicated?" Westinghouse just laughed and said, "That kid is very confident. You and I both know he's an extraordinary person. So if someone wants to commit suicide, then God can't stop it." Hearing him say that, Edison was a bit startled. He looked towards Tesla, who was raising both hands towards the globe. There were many lightning bolts around. Then a lightning bolt struck down like a thunderbolt. It shot straight down to where Nicholas was covering him. The people around were terrified. Was he electrocuted? Then his fake beard fell off. He laughed as everyone saw. Alternating current is not as scary as people rumor, but quite the opposite. Edison also couldn't believe what was happening. How could this be? Back in the modern world, when Bang Hao was sitting eating hot pot, it seemed like Mr. Li's time travel trip was quite long. Bang Hao sat alone eating until he was full, still not seeing the two people anywhere. The two servers at the restaurant were looking at him suspiciously, probably afraid that the young man would eat and not have money to pay. A man with a cigarette in his mouth said, "This kid sits alone eating, it's early morning and he's already like this, it's not good at all." Then he turned to his wife and said, "Shall we let him go?" Looking at his wife as if she was a strong woman wrestler. The wife looked at her husband like a bottom society guy and blurted out one sentence, "Don't even think about it." Then she walked over to Bang Hao, who was still worried about the two people. "Why are they so late? Did something happen?" She spoke loudly, "Hey young man, the consequences of dining and dashing here are very miserable." Then Bang Hao said, "I understand ma'am, but now I really can't leave." He took out a stack of money and handed it to the lady boss and said, "I'm still waiting for someone. Please keep my tab open." Seeing the money on the table wasn't small, she happily flexed her muscles. "It's been a long time since I've met a real man like this. Our shop is open just for you. I personally will go change dishes for you. Just sit and wait." When she left, Bang Hao finally breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, she really is a strong woman wrestler, her body looks just like a wall. But having said that, if I sit here waiting for a month there will inevitably be problems. He smirked happily, "Or should I let the boss pay for all this food?" As soon as he finished speaking there was someone whispering in his ear, "No way. I refuse." He was startled. Turning around, he saw Mr. Li and Tan Ao Su had returned. He joyfully said, "Oh, Mr. Li, and Tan Ao Su. Finally, you two have returned. I thought I would never see you two again." They looked at Bang Hao with bullet-like eyes. "Don't be so disgraceful. Quickly order for us." They ate heartily. Bang Hao could only watch. "Why are you looking at us like monsters? We just miss our hometown food." Tan Ao Su was so happy that she shed tears. "It's so delicious." Bang Hao spoke up, "As far as I noticed, you have been gone for the equivalent of a mealtime." And Mr. Li said, "A mealtime? We have been back and forth for hundreds of years, did you hear that?" Bang Hao fainted. "Oh my god, hundreds of years? A hot pot meal is equivalent to hundreds of years? Time is truly terrifying, Mr. Li is really scary." After finishing eating, Mr. Li borrowed Bang Hao's phone to call an old friend. The scene shifts to the Amazon rainforest. The old general of the past, now experiencing the air of modern times, never thought that one day in his life he could see humans flying. He was chilling when his bodyguard informed him of a phone call. He was having fun when he lost his mood. He told his bodyguard, "I've said it before, today is a day off and no business talk, turn off the phone." The bodyguard continued, "The person said he's your old friend, their surname is Luke." Hearing that, he was startled and quickly handed me Mr. Li's phone and asked, "Do you remember who I am?" He replied, "Of course I remember. In the country a man named Hun was hunting birds when he received a phone call." Hearing the voice on the other end of the line, he was startled and decided to return to country E. He is a young man who drinks alcohol from a bowl. A woman also received a phone call from Mr. Li. She was annoyed that someone dared to call and interrupt her vacation, as she rarely has free time. "Whoever it is, it's foolish to bother me," she thought. When Mr. Li called her by the name Anna, she was shocked. "I haven't used that name in a long time. Who are you?" After exchanging information, she nodded. "Sir, I understand. Then, she ordered to return to Hong Kong immediately. When her bodyguard asked where she was going, she smiled brightly and said, "I'm going to rejuvenate myself, or rather, I'm going to find my youth at the Longevity Club." Hao ran in and announced, "Sir, your glasses have been fixed." He then handed the glasses to Mr. Li. Mr. Li put on his glasses and said, "Finally, I can see the world clearly. My guests will be here soon." As for the Vin family, a bodyguard also reported to Uncle Ha, "The Longevity Club finally has some new activity. Are the movements of the Sir becoming more frequent?" The airport sent a message that a private jet had landed almost simultaneously. "So far we have only been able to investigate a Chinese person named Nak Trong. It is said that he has a huge industry in Country B." Nak Trong? This name sounds very familiar. His power is not inferior. It is said that his ancestors came from Country B and his family has never been to China. Why does he know Mr. Li, and why does he not hesitate to travel such a long distance to come here? Could it be that he is himself? Old Vin was shocked and quickly asked his bodyguard, "What about the other two? What are their identities?" Then the two of them, one from Country E and the other from Country M, seemed to be businessmen on the surface, but probably not. However, their relationship doesn't seem to be very good. So it's Anna teasing Mr. Hun. They are playing cat and mouse with each other, old man. You'd better go back to your farming work. As for Mr. Li, I'll talk to that ugly old woman. Dare to look down on others? Let me teach her a lesson. Eventually, they arrived at the club. They drove past the bodyguard and straight into the yard. Bang Hao had to pull out his gun and demand they stop and get out of the car. "Everyone get out." At this point, Anna got out of the car and said, "Calm down, darling. We are all old friends of Mr. Li." But Bang Hao was still tough, demanding everyone stand still and not move. "Turn around and put your hands on the hood of the car, hurry up darling, it's not nice to be rough with women." She tried to plead, but Bang Hao was even tougher and shouted at her to do as he said. Old Hun had to laugh, "People don't like your style. You should go to the park and try, there you might find your person." Then they started arguing loudly again, ignoring Bang Hao in front of them. When Mr. Li appeared, "Calm down a bit, everyone is our own people." Seeing Mr. Li, they were all shocked. Mr. Li greeted them, "Long time no see, my friends." Seeing Mr. Li's face unchanged over time, they were all shocked, although they had prepared mentally before coming here, but until they saw his face, they still couldn't believe their eyes. Old Hun even asked, "Are you really Mr. Li or an imposter?" Technology has advanced so much that facial surgery to look alike is not uncommon. Mr. Li turned around and laughed, "Your imagination is really rich." He still didn't believe it and asked again, "Do you remember the name of my first horse that you named?" The two of them found another excuse to argue loudly when they saw old Nak Trong. "Impossible, how could he be here? Why did he go ahead of me?" Then when the two of them were renting those luxury cars, I had already called a taxi to come here. Moreover, I took the highway. I didn't expect you guys to know each other. I used to worry that your long lives would be extremely lonely. It seems that I have been worrying needlessly. Does anyone want to tell me about their achievements over the past few years? Old Nak. You go first. As for Tan Ao Su outside worrying about something else, she suddenly exclaimed. This kid is late again. As for Arthur's side, it seems that he is still worshipping Mr. Li by hanging a picture of Mr. Li in his house Kiaha. The housekeeper came in to remind Arthur that there was a call for him to confirm his schedule. Whether you want to go or not, you should call them back anyway. It's basic courtesy. Arthur laughed. He's as carefree as his father, and very stubborn since childhood. I knew my parents were not ordinary people, they were simply something very miraculous. A wave of my father's hand could extend a person's life by hundreds of years. He is a god, he will not age. If my father keeps his youthful face forever, I can be close to him. It's hard to imagine that the housekeeper understood and ran in to pack up to go to China. What happened? Don't you understand what I'm saying? The housekeeper reassured, Sir, you are old. With this appearance, how can you become a member of the club? The wealthy empire you own, these achievements are what you bring out when facing your father. Well, you're right, I have to go there. Finally, old Arthur also ran to China to meet his young father. We were surprised, staring at the figures of their parents. It seems nothing has changed. As for the mansion of the Ven family, the bodyguard ran in to report, Uncle, I heard that a big figure from Country Y is about to visit Mr. Lee. Oh, Uncle Kong is also here. Your old man seems very anxious. I just got off the plane. Chi Koan, keep talking. Mr. Kong is our invited guest. Well, this newcomer doesn't have much information, but every time we find out something, it surprises us. As far as I know, his investment industry spans the entire continent, even targeting royal families. Of course, this is just his external identity, so his name is Arthur Luke. Although he has lived a secluded and quiet life for many years, but from what we found out, this man over 100 years old started doing charitable investment activities in the last century. We also found out other materials about him in different periods, from which we can guess that he is at least 150 years old. 150 years old? Those who deal with Mr. Lee are all strange. But what does he have to do with Mr. Lee and also Luke? Old Kong also spoke up, I'm getting more and more interested in this Mr. Lee, then calling me here is really great. Compared with this group of people, we are just naughty boys. Not to mention the wealth and relationships they have accumulated over a long time. Just thinking about it makes me feel scared. So is Mr. Lee someone worth dealing with? Well then Mr. Lee is ready to make fair deals, then that's great, meaning that as long as we pay a reasonable price we will definitely get a reward. Isn't this the safest deal in the world? If he and I join forces we will definitely trade for success. Chi Koan, prepare the car. We will go to the Longevity Club to meet the gentleman. When they arrived at the club, the two old men only met Du Di Van Ha. What did she say? Mr. Lee isn't here? I apologize, our gentleman has only been back for 2 days, and then he's on his way again. I'm really sorry. So do you know when he'll be back? How long should we come back? There are some relatives and friends of Mr. Lee visiting here and they have to be received by him personally, so who can make him personally pick them up? Du Di Van looked at them like you guys asked too much, but in the end she still spoke up, you guys probably heard about it so we don't need to beat around the bush anymore. Actually, the South American base of the club has been built. This time, Mr. Lee is going there to bring his old friends to harvest the project. In South America? I didn't expect there to be a club base there. We didn't know anything about it. At this time, on Mr. Lee's side, people were taking a helicopter to the base. This place is hidden in a damp, dark cave. They are quite clever to hide in nature. Sir, please follow me. I will lead you to the main center. There's a car taking them through this mountain tunnel. Higher than several hundred meters, over 100 years, we have dug deep and rebuilt it, so it has the scale as today. There are over 56,000 civilians living here. Most of them are researchers, all geniuses, carefully selected by me. They are always waiting for your appearance. When they went inside, everyone was surprised. This place is indeed a miniature city, even an ignorant person like Bang Hao had to exclaim. You built a city underground? To make these scenes, old knack? You must have spent all your money, right? It's not just a scene, sir. All the facilities and equipment here have their functions. For example, restaurants, bars, or cinemas. Even shopping centers. Doing so is also for the sake of the people's feelings. Compared to the cold laboratory, it's much more comfortable here. It really makes people feel relieved, old knack. You did a great job, thank you for your compliment. At this time, there was a sound of someone coming that made Mr. Lee also have to look back. Black ink manhwa? You put on your glasses and look carefully, you miscalculated again. Can't you save me a little bit? The old black ink man screamed out loud. I've counted 3 times already. You're only 3 years older than me, that's all. Who are you trying to raise your voice at? Doubting my professional calculation, huh? You fool. Seeing them, Mr. Lee felt familiar. It seems like I've seen them somewhere before. The 2 old men ran over and looked at Mr. Lee like looking at monkeys in the zoo. Seeing this, Manhwa immediately ran out to protect his master. Who are you? What do you want with my master? Manhwa. Calm down already. So this is Mr. Albert. I didn't expect him to be this old already. That's right. My staff members have aged quite a lot. The longevity club is about to become an elderly club. My longevity club must rejuvenate. Mr. Lee confidently said. Then Mr. Lee demonstrated his ability to help everyone rejuvenate. How do you guys feel? Are you used to your bodies yet? Looking at them, they're so young, who would believe they've lived for hundreds of years. All of them were happy with their new condition. Then they led Mr. Lee in to meet the elites that they had recruited over the years. Old Amber pushed the door, making everyone inside also startled and excited. Young people, however, our time has come back again. He came to fulfill the promises he had made before. But Amber's new appearance made them unrecognizable. They said, Hey young man, who are you looking for here? The bar is not a place where young punks can come and go as they please. Amber explained, I am Amber, I have rejuvenated, look at my card. They couldn't help but laugh. They didn't expect Amber to give birth to such a cute old man. Do you still believe that? Of course, time only exists in legends. Among us, no one has ever seen that person in real life. Old Amber also came, gave up and turned to Mr. Lee for help. He thought to himself, yes. Is this still a female staff management center? At this time, Mr. Lee came from behind and said, all the wonderful experiments originated from here. Unexpectedly, it was this bar. The old Chinese musician is now as young as a 40-year-old businessman. It's a pity that time does not spare people. 100 years have passed. These old men have become deaf and blind. Every day they discuss health issues. That's why I came. Just in time, Mr. Lee still has the power to show his power. Seeing the halo emanating from Mr. Lee, they couldn't help but be amazed. Then, Mr. Lee made them young again. They were very surprised by their new bodies, no different from those old men. Then, someone looked at Mr. Lee mysteriously and said, after waiting for so many years, I didn't expect you to finally come. My supreme time wizard. Time seems to treat you very kindly, your face hasn't aged at all. And Mr. Lee also said, now you look like you used to. Nicholas Tesla. Then, Tesla and Arthur met again. The 2 of them rushed to hug each other. Nicholas, long time no see, you haven't aged at all and neither have you. You look so young. It's been a long time since we met. Seeing the family reunion scene, Miss Tan Ao Su cried her eyes out. The 2 brothers finally met again. And Bang Hao next to him saw it and said, but why do I feel that the dialogue is very fake? The 2 of them turned to Mr. Lee and said, today is the happiest day of my life. I am eager to show you the results of my 100 years of research. Okay, but there's one thing, do we have to stand here talking? My legs are tired. After a while of talking, Mr. Lee disseminated his creation plan to all members. Currently the world's #1 miniaturized world created by Chinese scientists has developed into the era of the Industrial Revolution. Simply put, I used time acceleration to create a new world. But anyway, it's just a first-generation product and there's a lot of work to do. So new technologies have not yet appeared. Hearing this, Tesla smiled and said, "Sir, all my colleagues here can certainly help you." "Of course you can, but it will have to be a completely new world number 2. Hearing this, everyone was surprised. World number 2? Continue to use time acceleration to change from the primitive state. Oh my god, the gentleman said that there had been successful cases. I really want to witness this with my own eyes. But I wonder, can new species be planted here? So, is world number 2 being implemented at our place, sirs? Creating a new world is extremely complicated, we can't rush to say it by how. Speaking of this, Hao brought out a stack of papers. These are the contracts to prove your loyalty to me. I have brought you back to youth, but it's just the beginning. If you want more time to witness a distant future, you must show your loyalty. So it's possible to become a member of the Longevity Club, please dedicate your loyalty here. This is the contract that has been there since we met, but it's been over 100 years. I want to reaffirm everyone's loyalty and determination once again. Anyway, people here come from all over the world, hundreds of years have passed, there are still disputes about many issues, your contact with this world has been cut off for a long time. So the Longevity Club will be everyone's only home, and this club does not recruit those who hesitate. Hearing this, everyone thought that we had nothing to hesitate about. I really like the feeling of staying in one place to focus on research, they said, and everyone signed the contract. No matter how long it takes, I don't feel tired. In fact, I've liked working and discussing with my juniors for a long time. Tesla moved next to Mr. Lee. So next, should we go see the mini world? The scene shifts to Vin's house. He is worried because there has been no movement from Mr. Lee's side for a long time. It has been 12 days since they came to meet Dudy Van. He wondered, what on earth are Mr. Lee's people doing? Then, 2 old men were reviewing messages in the club. The 2 were surprised when they saw names like Tesla or Arthur Anna. Could this person be the one we discovered? She is a female oil merchant who wanders at sea all year round? Vin continued, very likely. The 128 people in here all have mysterious identities, but they are definitely famous characters. The only one who shows up now is me. His sister is very tall, but she is only ranked in the top 100. So, which era is this Anna from? Her ranking is 89. Then, the phone vibrated. Vin had a new task. The task content is a guest reception task, only for members in China. The task description is that numbers 88, 89, 93, 98, 100 will return home in the next few days. Meet at the airport. The accumulation points will be 400 per person. In addition, there are also item retrieval tasks. The accumulation points are also 400 per person. Seeing this, Vin was overjoyed. He is taking the initiative and choosing his manpower. At this moment at the airport, a convoy of luxury cars followed each other in line, causing passers-by to be amazed, showing off too much. Could there be a celebrity here? It turns out that it's Vin's convoy, going to pick up members of the club. He sat in the car and muttered to himself, this is a once-in-a-thousand-year opportunity, not to be mistaken. Then he turned to ask the bodyguard, is there any mistake in security? The bodyguard replied, this time, I specially hired the best security company in the country to take care of this issue. There will definitely be no mistakes. I'm sure of my work. At this point he received a phone call. When he heard what the person on the other end of the line said, he shouted out loud, what? I had booked at the VIP exit. Who dares to be so arrogant? Did you tell them whose territory this is? How dare they do that? It turns out it's trans people. Tran Van Bin did this. Old Vin was furious. I knew those 2 brothers were no good. But now they dare to treat Vin as a fool, that damn thing. The bodyguard spoke up, Uncle, do we need to? Vin seemed very angry but still endured the humiliation and closed his eyes and said, the first one who causes trouble will be ostracized by Mr. Lee. I also accidentally eliminated a strong opponent. Let me see what tricks he intends to use. At this point a car arrived and a man got out of the car and walked to Vin's car door and said, "It's so hot today. I really want an ice cream." That person was none other than Tran Van Bin. He continued, "Old Vin, your face looks not bad, huh? I came here to greet you." Old Vin still showed a happy face and replied, "Ah, it's because of Mr. Lee's blessing to me. Otherwise I would still be gasping for oxygen." Old Tran continued, "You are the first to accept the task. Young people like me can't look as far as you can, right? And you seem to have a lot of manpower, you must have earned a lot during this time." Old Vin replied, "You've been in the club for a while, you should understand. If you can grab this kind of task, consider it earned. If you can't grab it yourself, you can only watch others." At this point, there was the sound of the VIP guests coming out. Looking at them, everyone was as young as 18-year-old boys and girls. The bodyguard next to Vin also wondered, "Uncle, aren't they too young?" "Are you sure they are?" Old Vin quickly interrupted, "What do you know? Just do as Mr. Lee says." But he still looked at old Nak Trung and thought, "This person among them is very similar to how I handled situations over the years." If it really is him, it proves that the gentleman not only prolongs their lives, but can also restore youth. Thinking of this, Vin's face changed color and he dared not think further. Then he thought to himself, "If I receive this gift, will I be as young as them?" At this point old Nak Trung approached him and said, "You are a descendant of Vin family, right? Do you still remember me? You are senior number 88, right?" "It's old Nak." Nak Trung laughed out loud. "Your memory is really good, very similar to your ancestor." Hearing these words, old Vin thought to himself, "Could this be my grandfather? Is it really him?" Old Vin asked again, "Senior, how many years have you lived?"